The bus passed Maya's stop, and the driver didn't slow down. Maya pressed the stop request button again, harder this time. The yellow "Stop Requested" sign should have lit up above the windshield. It didn't. She pressed it 3 more times in quick succession, listening for the chime that would tell the driver she wanted off at the next stop. Silence. "Excuse me," Maya called toward the front, keeping her voice polite but firm. "I need to get off. Hawthorne and 32nd. The driver didn't respond. Didn't even glance at the rearview mirror. Maya had boarded Route 57 at exactly 11:47 p.m., same as she had hundreds of times before. Last bus of the night from downtown Portland to her neighborhood. She'd texted her roommate just the moment she sat down, 4th row, window seat, her usual spot, thumbs up emoji and home in 20. The bus had pulled away from the stop, and that's when Maya first noticed something felt off. The streetlights outside looked wrong. Not dimmer or brighter, just wrong. A different shade of yellow. Buildings she passed every night seemed slightly unfamiliar, like photographs that had been color-corrected badly. She'd attributed it to exhaustion. 11-hour shift at the bookstore, late-night inventory, her eyes were playing tricks. But now the bus was approaching Hawthorne and 32nd, her stop, the one she took every single night, and the driver wasn't slowing down. "Hey!" Maya stood, gripping the pole. "I need to get off." The bus drove straight through the intersection without pausing. Maya turned to look at the other passengers, seeking some kind of confirmation that this was as weird as it felt. 6 people scattered throughout the bus. All of them sitting perfectly still. Staring straight ahead. Not moving. Not blinking. A woman in the 2nd row, hands folded in her lap. A man near the back, head tilted at an odd angle. A teenager with headphones, frozen mid-lean against the window. "Did you all see that?" Maya's voice came out higher than she intended. "The bus just passed the stop. The driver isn't." None of them moved. None of them acknowledged her at all. Maya's skin prickled. She looked at her own reflection in the dark window, seeing herself clearly, confused expression, hand still gripping the pole, ordinary late-night commuter. Then she looked at the reflections of the other passengers. In the glass, their mouths were open. Wide open. Screaming silently with expressions of absolute terror. Eyes wild with panic. Faces contorted in agony. But in reality, when Maya spun to look at them directly, they sat perfectly still. Blank faces. Empty stares. Maya's phone slipped from her hand, caught by the strap around her wrist. She looked at the screen. 11:52 p.m. She'd boarded 5 minutes ago. The time was right. She looked up, watching the city slide past outside. Except it wasn't the Portland she knew anymore. A building that should have been an apartment complex was a Victorian house. A street that ran north-south was curving east. A parking lot that had been empty for months was suddenly full of cars from different decades. She saw a 1950s Chevy next to a Tesla next to something she couldn't even identify. Maya looked back at her phone. Still 11:52 p.m. She waited 30 seconds, counting in her head. Still 11:52 p.m. The bus kept moving, traveling through a version of Portland that shouldn't exist. Outside the windows, the city cycled through impossible iterations of itself, past and future, and something else entirely overlapping in ways that made Maya's head hurt to watch. And the 6 other passengers sat frozen, screaming in their reflections, silent in reality. The bus didn't slow down. It never stopped. Some buses run late. Some never reach their destination. And some collect passengers who will never, ever get off. Emma Chen lived the kind of life that could be fully captured in spreadsheets, and she preferred it that way. At 32, she'd built a carefully structured existence in her Boston studio apartment, remote work as a data analyst, minimal social obligations, every detail tracked and documented. Digital calendar color-coded by category. Food diary logging every meal with timestamps and calorie counts. Expense tracker categorizing purchases down to the cent. Her phone's camera roll was organized into albums, receipts, meals, outfit documentation, random. It was a work habit that had bled into every corner of her life. When you spent 40 hours a week finding patterns in data, you started seeing everything as data points waiting to be organized. The first note appeared on a Tuesday in September, tucked under her apartment door. Asterisk, hope your meeting went well today. Asterisk. Emma had stared at it for a full minute before photographing it and adding the image to a new album, miscellaneous/unusual. She'd had a client meeting that morning via Zoom, but she hadn't mentioned it to anyone. Not her sister, not her landlord, not the neighbor she occasionally exchanged pleasantries with in the hallway. She filed it away as odd but not alarming. Maybe the building manager had overheard her on a call. The second note came 3 days later. Asterisk, oatmeal with blueberries Thursday morning. Healthy choice. Asterisk. Emma's hands had gone cold. She'd eaten that exact breakfast in her apartment, alone, curtains closed. Nobody could have seen. The notes continued. Always on white paper, always in neat handwriting, always containing details that should have been impossible to know. Asterisk, your sister called. She's worried about your mom. You should call her back. Asterisk. Emma's sister had called while Emma was in the shower. Emma hadn't told anyone about the call, hadn't even returned it yet. Then the text started. Unknown numbers, different each time. Asterisk, saw you looking at that dress in the window. The blue one. It would look nice on you. Asterisk. Emma had been shopping alone downtown. Hadn't tried the dress on, hadn't taken a photo, had barely paused to look at it. Her response was methodical. She changed her locks, the note still appeared. She installed security cameras covering her door and hallway, they showed nothing, just empty corridors, then her returning home to find new notes. She started a spreadsheet titled Incidents with columns for date, time, location, content, possible source. Every note was photographed with timestamp and metadata. Every text was screenshotted. Every incident was logged with context about what she'd been doing, who might have known, what security measures were in place. 6 months of documentation. 147 incidents. A timeline stretching from September through February, growing more frequent, more specific, more impossible. The notes knew when she'd had nightmares. Knew what she'd searched for online on her personal laptop. Knew conversations she'd had during walks when no one was nearby. Asterisk, you're scared. I can tell. But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just watching. I'm always watching. Asterisk. Emma sat in her apartment on a Monday morning in March, looking at her meticulously organized evidence folder, gigabytes of photos, screenshots, spreadsheets, timeline visualizations. She'd done everything right. Documented everything. Created an airtight record of 6 months of systematic stalking. She opened her laptop and searched, Boston Police Department non-emergency number. It was time to report. She had no idea that the moment she made that decision, she'd started a 72-hour countdown. Detective Marcus Webb had been with Boston PD for 15 years, and he'd seen plenty of stalking cases. Most followed predictable patterns: ex-boyfriends who couldn't let go, co-workers nursing obsessive crushes, estranged family members crossing boundaries. Usually, the victim knew exactly who was tormenting them. The challenge was building a prosecutable case, not identifying the perpetrator. Emma Chen's case was different from the moment she walked into Station 14 at 2:17 p.m. on Monday, March 13. She arrived carrying a laptop bag, a 3-ring binder, and an expression of careful composure that Webb recognized immediately. Someone who'd been living with fear long enough to develop a system for managing it. I'm being stalked, she said, sitting across from him at his desk. I don't know who's doing it, but I have 6 months of documentation. Webb had heard similar statements before. Usually the documentation was a handful of saved texts and a vague timeline. Emma Chen opened her binder to reveal something else entirely. Color-coded tabs. Printed spreadsheets with incident numbers, dates, times, locations. Photographs of handwritten notes, each labeled with acquisition date and context. Screenshots of texts from different numbers, organized chronologically. A timeline printed on legal-size paper that unfolded to reveal 6 months of escalating contact. "This is extraordinary," Webb said, and he meant it. "Walk me through it." Emma's presentation was clinical. She didn't editorialize, didn't speculate. Just facts. Note appeared here, text received there, security camera showed nothing at this timestamp. Her voice remained steady even when describing the content, intimate details about her private life, things nobody should have known. Webb took notes, trying to find the usual patterns. Ex-boyfriend? Former coworker? Anyone you've had conflict with? No significant relationships in the past 3 years. Remote work, limited social circle. No disputes, no arguments, no rejected advances. Webb ran the phone numbers through the system while Emma waited. Every single one came back the same way, not in service, no records, some showed as never having been assigned by any carrier. "That's impossible," Webb said. "I know," Emma replied. He reviewed her security footage personally. 4 cameras covering her hallway and entrance. The timestamps matched her incident log perfectly. Empty hallway at 2:14 p.m. Emma arriving home at 5:47 p.m. to find a note under her door. No one had entered the hallway in the intervening 3.5 hours. Webb ran a background check, expecting to find something that would explain this: history of mental health treatment, past false reports, anything. Emma Chen was exactly who she said she was. Employed for 6 years at the same firm, no criminal record, no psychiatric holds, no previous police contact. Coworkers described her as logical, reserved, thorough to the point of being meticulous. This wasn't delusion. This wasn't exaggeration. Something was happening to Emma Chen. Something that shouldn't be possible. Webb filed an official report at 3:45 p.m., assigned case number 2024-03847, and told Emma what he told every stalking victim: keep documenting everything. Patterns emerge over time. We'll figure out who's doing this. What he didn't tell her was that he'd never seen anything quite like this. Not in 15 years. He started a routine investigation, interviewed her neighbors, nobody had seen anyone suspicious, reviewed building security, nothing, checked for similar reports in the area, none. But Emma's documentation was undeniable. 147 incidents, meticulously recorded, showing someone with impossible knowledge of her private life. Webb looked at the timeline spread across his desk and felt something he rarely felt in his work: unease. Someone, or something, was watching Emma Chen. And Webb had no idea how to stop it. Emma found the note when she got home Monday night, slipped under her door like all the others. Asterisk, you think documenting will save you? Asterisk. Her hand shook slightly as she photographed it, front and back, close-up of the handwriting, wide shot showing the location. She uploaded the images to her cloud storage, added a new row to her spreadsheet: incident number 148, March 13, 9:47 p.m., apartment door, threatening reference to documentation. It knew. Somehow, it knew she'd gone to the police. Tuesday morning brought a text from another unknown number. Asterisk, I see you seeing me. Asterisk. Emma stared at the message for a full minute before screenshotting it. The words felt like they were crawling under her skin. She tried to call the number back, the 3-tone error sound: the number you have dialed is not in service. She called Detective Webb at 11:23 a.m., trying to keep her voice steady. It knows I reported it. The note last night referenced documentation. How could it know I went to the police? I'll come by this afternoon, Webb said, and something in his tone had shifted. Less routine reassurance, more genuine concern. He arrived at 3 p.m. and spent an hour reviewing her security footage frame by frame. Emma watched over his shoulder as he suddenly paused, rewound, played it again. Do you see that? He asked. The timestamp jumped. 2:17 p.m. to 2:19 p.m. with no transition, no indication of a gap. 2 full minutes just gone. Camera malfunction? Emma suggested, but she didn't believe it. Webb checked the system logs. Camera was recording continuously. No errors, no interruptions. The time just skipped. He looked at Emma with an expression she recognized, someone encountering something their training hadn't prepared them for. Wednesday morning, Emma called Webb at 7:15 a.m. Her voice was shaking in a way it hadn't been before. "I need to show you something. Can you come over? Now?" Webb arrived 20 minutes later to find Emma at her laptop, eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep, surrounded by printed pages and open browser tabs. "I've been researching since you left yesterday," she said. "Looking for similar cases. Women being stalked with impossible knowledge, documentation that doesn't help. I thought maybe there'd be a pattern, maybe others who'd reported the same thing." She turned the laptop toward him. "I'm not the first, detective. There are others." The screen showed a document with 7 names, each linked to a case file Emma had somehow accessed through public records and news archives. Rachel Morrison, 2019. Data scientist, Boston. Reported stalking with extensive documentation. Vanished 3 days after filing police report. Jennifer Park, 2017. Accountant, Cambridge. Security footage showed her entering apartment, never leaving. Gone 72 hours after reporting. Alicia Brennan, 2015. Project manager, Somerville. Meticulous records of stalking incidents. Disappeared exactly 3 days post-report. Webb scrolled through the list. 7 women. Ages 28 to 35. All professionals. All described by friends and coworkers as meticulous, organized, detail-oriented. All had reported stalking with extensive documentation. All had vanished within 72 hours of filing their police reports. "The pattern is exact," Emma said, her voice hollow. "Every single one. They document everything, they report it, and 72 hours later they're gone. No trace. No evidence of foul play. Just, gone." Webb checked the timestamp on Emma's police report. Monday, March 13, 2:17 p.m. It was now Wednesday, March 15, 7:35 a.m. If the pattern held, Emma had approximately 31 hours left. "We're going to break this pattern," Webb said, but the words felt empty even as he spoke them. Emma looked at him with eyes that said she already knew the truth. Documentation hadn't saved the others. It wouldn't save her either. Emma had printed everything. 7 case files spread across her coffee table, each one a mirror of her own situation, each one ending the same way. "Rachel Morrison," Emma said, pointing to the first file. 29, data scientist, lived in Alston. Started receiving notes in May 2019. Details about her private life nobody should have known. She documented everything, kept a digital log, took photos, saved every piece of evidence. Webb picked up the file. Rachel's case had been handled by District 14, different detective, closed after 6 months with no leads. She filed a police report on June 18, 2019. Disappeared June 21. Building security showed her entering her apartment at 10:34 p.m. Never showed her leaving. Door was locked from the inside when the landlord opened it the next day. Phone, wallet, keys all there. Rachel Morrison was just gone. Webb felt something cold settle in his chest. He'd heard about this case, it had made local news briefly, one of those mysterious disappearances that gets filed under unexplained and eventually forgotten. Jennifer Park, 2017, Emma continued, her voice taking on the detached quality of someone reciting data they've analyzed too many times. Accountant, 31, Somerville. Same pattern. Stalking with impossible knowledge. Changed locks 3 times, notes still appeared. Filed police report August 9, vanished August 12, locked apartment, no exit captured on camera. 7 files. 7 women. The pattern was identical in every case. Single, professional women between 28 and 35. All worked in data-oriented fields: analytics, accounting, project management, research. All described by those who knew them as meticulous, organized, detail-focused. All experienced stalking that involved impossible knowledge, notes in secured locations, texts from numbers that didn't exist, references to private moments no one could have witnessed. All created extensive documentation, spreadsheets, timelines, photographs, logs. All filed police reports. All disappeared exactly 72 hours later. Alicia Brennan, 2015, Emma said, handing Webb another file. Project manager, 33, lived in Cambridge. Security cameras at her building showed her coming home at 11:17 p.m. on the night she vanished. Never showed her leaving. Apartment untouched. She filed her report at 3 p.m. 3 days earlier. Webb checked his watch against Emma's police report timestamp. Monday, March 13, 2:17 p.m. It was now Wednesday, March 15, 4:30 p.m. 50 hours and 13 minutes since Emma had filed her report. If the pattern held, and the pattern was exact across 7 cases, Emma had approximately 21 hours and 47 minutes left. I need to verify these cases, Webb said, reaching for his phone. I already did. Emma's voice was flat. Read the files. I pulled everything from public records, news archives, police databases I shouldn't have been able to access but did because I'm good at finding data. Webb went through each case methodically. Called colleagues, checked records, verified details. Every single case was exactly as Emma described. All unsolved. All classified as missing persons with no leads. All eventually gone cold. None of them had been connected because they happened in different years, in different precincts, handled by different detectives. There was no reason anyone would have linked them. Except Emma had found them by searching a very specific phrase, disappeared after police report. Your pattern recognition, Webb said slowly. You found a connection nobody else saw. That's what data analysts do, Emma replied. We find patterns in noise. Webb looked at her, this meticulous, logical woman who'd done everything right, documented everything perfectly, built an airtight case that should have helped. And realized with sickening clarity, Emma's greatest strength had become her fatal flaw. Her pattern recognition had either saved her by revealing the danger, or doomed her by triggering it. Webb spent Wednesday afternoon on the phone, calling colleagues across different precincts, pulling case files that should have remained buried in the unsolved archives. Every call confirmed what Emma had found. 7 women. 7 identical patterns. 7 unexplained disappearances within 72 hours of filing stalking reports. District 14 remembered Rachel Morrison. Strangest case I ever worked, Detective Reyes told Webb. Woman had documentation like I'd never seen. Then she just vanished from a locked apartment. No leads, no evidence, no body. Had to close it eventually. Cambridge PD said the same about Jennifer Park. Somerville about Alicia Brennan. Every detective used similar words: strangest, inexplicable, impossible. Meanwhile, Emma sat at her laptop, pulling security footage from the previous cases, material she'd accessed through methods Webb chose not to ask about. She played clip after clip, pointing out the anomalies. Look at this. Rachel Morrison's building, June 21, 2019. Timestamp jumps from 10:17 to 10:21. 4 minutes just gone. Another clip. Jennifer Park's hallway camera. Watch the timestamp. 11:14, 11:14. 11:14, same minute repeating 3 times before jumping to 11:19. Time skips. Empty hallways when someone should have been visible. Contradictory timestamps across different camera systems. It's not a person, Emma said, her voice taking on the intensity of someone who'd spent too many hours staring at data. It can't be. A person can't manipulate time. Can't send texts from numbers that don't exist. Can't know things that happen in locked rooms with no surveillance. Webb wanted to argue, but the evidence was undeniable. We're all the same, Emma continued. Every victim. We record everything. Track everything. Document everything. Digital calendars logging every appointment. Food diaries tracking every meal. Expense trackers categorizing every purchase. Photo documentation of receipts, outfits, random moments. She pulled up her own phone, scrolling through albums. I have 37,000 photos organized into 214 categories. I track my location history. I log my sleep patterns. I document my life obsessively. What if that's what makes us visible? Her eyes met Webb's. What if documentation creates the vulnerability? What if something sees us through our own records? That's not how stalking works, Webb said, but the conviction in his voice was failing. Then explain the impossible details, Emma shot back. Explain how it knows conversations I had alone in my apartment. Explain texts from numbers that phone companies say were never assigned. Explain how it gets into locked apartments with no entry shown on any camera. Webb had no answer. Every victim kept extensive digital footprints, Emma said. We create detailed records of our entire lives. What if something uses that against us? What if the more we document, the more it learns? What if our own data makes us targets? She stood abruptly, moving to her laptop. What if the documentation isn't protection, it's the weapon? It was 9 p.m. Wednesday. Approximately 13 hours left if the pattern held. I'm deleting everything, Emma said, her fingers already moving across the keyboard. All of it. The spreadsheets, the photos, the logs, the timelines. Every piece of documentation. Wait, Webb said. We need that evidence. Emma looked at him with eyes that held a terrible certainty. The evidence is what's killing us, detective. Every woman who documented meticulously is gone. The ones who kept the best records disappeared the fastest. She highlighted her entire stalking incident folder, 6 months of perfect documentation. Maybe the way to survive isn't to prove it exists, she said. Maybe it's to stop feeding it data. Her finger hovered over the delete key. Webb knew he should stop her. He didn't. Emma's fingers flew across the keyboard, highlighting folders and hitting delete with methodical precision. 6 months of documentation vanishing in seconds. Please, Webb said, watching helplessly. At least keep copies. For the investigation. For evidence. You don't understand. Emma didn't look up from the screen. The investigation triggers it. The pattern recognition is the activation. Another folder deleted. Incident photos, gone. Timeline spreadsheet, gone. Once you see the connection, you have 72 hours, she continued, her voice eerily calm. I saw it. I made the connection. I found the other 7 cases. I recognized the pattern. I'm past the point of no return. Webb's phone buzzed, a text from his captain asking for an update. He ignored it. We can protect you. Safe house, 24-hour surveillance, officers at your door. Emma laughed, a sound devoid of humor. They all had security, detective. Rachel Morrison had cameras covering every angle. Jennifer Park lived in a building with a doorman and keycard access. Alicia Brennan changed her locks 4 times. None of it helped. They all disappeared from locked apartments with guards and cameras and every security measure you can imagine. She emptied the trash, permanently deleting the files. Security doesn't stop something that exists in the space between observation and reality. At 10 p.m., Emma set up her laptop camera and hit record. Webb watched from across the room as she spoke directly to the lens, her face composed, her words measured. Detective Webb. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you're doing exactly what I did. Don't. The phenomenon isn't someone. It's awareness itself. When you recognize the pattern, you activate it. Delete this research. Forget the cases. Live with not knowing. She uploaded the video to her cloud storage and wrote the password on a slip of paper, handing it to Webb. If I'm gone tomorrow, watch this. At 10:30 p.m., she walked him to the door. There's nothing more you can do. Go home, detective. Don't watch me disappear. I'm staying, Webb said. In my car across the street. I'll watch the building all night. Emma's expression was almost pitying. It won't help. But do what you need to do. Webb took position in his unmarked car at 11 p.m., parked across the street with a clear view of Emma's building. 4th floor, 3rd window from the left, her apartment light was on. The building's entrance was visible, security guards stationed at the desk inside the glass doors. There was no way anyone could enter or exit without being seen. 11:47 p.m., Emma appeared at the building entrance, returning from a walk she'd insisted on taking alone. She waved to the security guard. Webb saw the gesture clearly. The guard waved back, buzzed her in. Security footage would later show her entering the elevator, pressing 4, arriving at her floor at 11:49 p.m. Her apartment door opening, Emma stepping inside, door closing and locking behind her. Webb watched her window. The light stayed on. A shadow moved past the curtains, Emma, moving through her apartment. 11:52 p.m., Webb's phone buzzed with a notification. A text from Emma's number. He opened it, expecting a reassurance that she was okay. Instead, it was addressed to an unknown number. Forwarded to Webb automatically through some setting Emma must have configured. The message read, *I know who you are now. *. Webb looked up at Emma's window. The light was still on. The shadow had stopped moving. He called her phone. It rang from inside the apartment. He could hear it faintly through the 4th floor window. No answer. Webb's hands tightened on the steering wheel. 12 hours and 8 minutes left until the 72-hour mark. But something in Webb's gut told him that Emma Chen's time had just run out. Webb didn't leave his car all night. At 12:30 a.m., Emma's apartment light was still on. He could see the glow through her 4th floor window, steady and unchanged. No shadows moving. No indication of activity. He told himself she was sleeping. That the light being on meant nothing. By 6 a.m., Webb's unease had crystallized into dread. He hadn't seen movement in that window for over 6 hours. Not once. He dialed Emma's number. Through the pre-dawn quiet, he heard it ring faintly from the 4th floor. Once. Twice. 3 times. Voicemail. He called again. Same result, phone ringing inside the apartment, no answer. At 8 a.m., Webb crossed the street and entered the building. The security guard looked up, recognized him from the night before. She hasn't come down, the guard said before Webb could ask. I've been here since midnight. Nobody's left the building from that apartment. Webb showed his badge. I need the building manager. Now. 20 minutes later, Webb stood outside Emma's door with the manager, master key in hand. He'd called for backup, 2 officers were on their way, but he couldn't wait. Boston PD Emma Chen, if you can hear me, I'm coming in. The key turned. The door opened. The apartment was undisturbed. Emma's phone sat on the kitchen counter next to her wallet and keys, exactly where someone would place them after coming home. Her laptop was open on the dining table, screen showing a file recovery program running, attempting to restore the documentation she'd deleted hours earlier. A coffee mug sat on the counter. Webb touched it carefully. Still warm. He moved through the apartment methodically, already knowing what he'd find. Bedroom empty, bed unslept in. Bathroom empty, shower dry. Living area empty. Every window was locked from the inside, he checked each one personally. The balcony door was locked from the inside, security bar in place. No hidden exits. No access panels. No way out except through the front door. Emma Chen was simply gone. The building manager pulled up security footage while Webb waited, jaw tight. 4 cameras covered the 4th floor hallway and all building exits. They reviewed each one. 11:47 p.m. Emma Chen enters building, waves to guard. 11:49 p.m. Emma exits elevator on 4th floor, walks to apartment 4C, unlocks door, enters, door closes. 11:49 p.m. to 8:15 a.m. Hallway remains empty. No one enters or exits apartment 4C. That's impossible, the manager said. She has to be in there. But she wasn't. Forensics arrived at 9:30 a.m., processed the apartment for 3 hours. No blood. No signs of struggle. No evidence of forced entry or exit. No indication of foul play. The coffee mug's warmth suggested Emma had been there as recently as an hour ago, but the security footage showed nobody had entered or left. Webb stood in the center of Emma's apartment at noon on Thursday, March 16, exactly 71 hours and 43 minutes after she'd filed her police report, and accepted the impossible truth. Emma Chen had vanished from a locked apartment with 4 cameras showing no exit, a security guard confirming no departure, and every window and door secured from the inside. Just like Rachel Morrison in 2019. Just like Jennifer Park in 2017. Just like 7 women before her. The case was officially classified as a missing person investigation by 2 p.m. By 5 p.m., detectives were already using the past tense when discussing Emma Chen. Webb returned to his desk that evening, pulled out Emma's cloud storage password, and logged in to watch her final video message. Emma's face filled his screen, recorded just 14 hours before she vanished. Detective Webb. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you're doing exactly what I did, looking for the pattern. Stop. But Webb couldn't stop. He opened a new document and titled it, Pattern Recognition Phenomena 8 Connected Disappearances. Emma had been right about one thing. The pattern recognition was the activation. And Webb had just activated it. Emma Chen's case was officially closed as unsolved 6 months after her disappearance. The file went into the cold case archive, one more unexplained missing person in a city full of them. Detective Marcus Webb kept his own file. He investigated on his own time, late nights, weekends, vacation days spent following leads that went nowhere. His captain told him to let it go. His partner suggested therapy. Webb nodded and agreed and continued anyway. He couldn't stop. 3 weeks after Emma vanished, Webb finally accessed her cloud storage using the password she'd given him. The video file was timestamped 11:45 p.m., March 15, recorded just minutes before Emma entered her building for the last time. Emma's face filled the screen. Calm. Resigned. Already knowing. Detective Webb. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And you're doing exactly what I did, looking for the pattern. Webb paused the video, but only for a moment. Stop. The phenomenon isn't a who, it's a what. It's awareness itself. When you recognize the pattern, you become part of it. When you try to document it, you feed it. When you understand how it works, it activates. Emma's eyes looked directly into the camera, directly at him. I couldn't stop. Pattern recognition is what I do. But this pattern recognizes back. It sees you seeing it. You have 72 hours from the moment of understanding. Delete this research. Forget the cases. Because the alternative is joining us, wherever we are. Webb watched the video 3 times that night. Then he opened a new document and titled it, Pattern Recognition Phenomena, Connected Disappearances. He couldn't help himself. Just like Emma couldn't. 3 years later ***. Detective Sarah Kim stood outside Marcus Webb's apartment at 9:15 a.m. with a warrant and a sick feeling in her stomach. Webb had been missing for 48 hours. No call, no show for work, phone going straight to voicemail. The landlord unlocked the door. Sarah stepped inside and felt her breath catch. The walls were covered. Printed photos of 12 women's faces. Timelines spanning 15 years. String connecting dates, locations, incidents. Post-it notes with observations written in Webb's cramped handwriting. Emma Chen's face was in the center, surrounded by 7 others. 4 more had been added. Case's Webb had found that Emma hadn't. His laptop sat open on the dining table, a document visible on the screen. Sarah approached slowly, already knowing this was wrong, already knowing she should call it in and walk away. She read the document instead. I understand now. It's an informational entity. It exists in observation space. It's activated by pattern recognition. The more you document it, the more real it becomes. I've been investigating for 3 years. I found 12 cases. And I finally understand how it works. Which means I have approximately 24 hours left. To whoever finds this, the pattern is real. Don't try to prove it. Don't research the names. Don't look for connections. Each victim was someone who compulsively documented their life. Each one recognized the pattern. The act of recognizing makes it manifest. I'm past the point of return. But you're not. Close this file. Forget my research. Don't do what Emma did. Don't do what I did. Stop looking for the pattern. Because the pattern is looking back. Sarah Kim stood in the silent apartment, reading Webb's final warning. She should have called her captain. Should have sealed the apartment. Should have walked away. Instead, she pulled out her phone and photographed the wall. Screenshot the document. Started building her own timeline in her head. She was a detective. Pattern recognition was literally her job. She couldn't help herself either. 72 hours began counting down. 6 months later. A simple memorial website appeared online. Remember them, Boston Metro Disappearances 2008 to 2024. 12 names. 12 faces. No details. No pattern explanation. No contact information. Just a marker. A warning for those who might look too closely. Sarah Kim had made her choice. Stop investigating or disappear. She chose survival. Deleted her research. Lived with not knowing. The website was her compromise, a warning without explanation. 3 years after that. Rebecca Torres, data analyst in Chicago, found the memorial site while researching something else entirely. She noticed all the victims had similar professional backgrounds. She opened a spreadsheet. Started correlating dates. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You keep such good records, Rebecca. I've learned so much from them. Another text, * 72 hours. Rebecca stared at the messages, not understanding. But she would. In time. Just like Emma had. Just like Webb had. Just like Sarah almost had. Emma's voice played over the final scene, her video message echoing across the years. If you're watching this, you're already doing what I did. Looking for answers. Seeking patterns. Documenting everything. That's how it finds you. Through your own need to know. Your own records. Your own awareness. The pattern isn't in the data. The pattern is the data. And once you see it clearly enough to understand, it sees you. You have 72 hours from the moment of recognition. I'm past that now. You might not be. Yet. Close this file. Delete the research. Forget the names. Live with not knowing. Because knowing will kill you. In Chicago, Rebecca Torres highlighted her new spreadsheet, Pattern Analysis, Boston Disappearances. The countdown had begun. Again.